decision nila.
Government has deferred the shift in quarantine classifications in Metro Manila and other parts of the country until mid-September. But how will these quarantine changes bring down COVID transmission and hopefully improve the economy? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to this special edition of The Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. Kasama po natin si Ed Lingao of One News. And mamaya, sasabahan po din po tayo ni aming pamintuan ng Philippine Star. Bok, tayong dalawa muna.
Happy Tuesday.
Recently, parang we were all bracing for a return to GCQ, with the granular lockdown strategy. But yung GCQ in 2 days, and then we get news just over the past 2 hours na, teka muna, status quo at least until September 15.
Yeah, it's a deferment of 1 week, which is sort of a middle ground between the previous plan and the recommendation of OCTA to defer for 2 weeks. If you recall, they were asking for a 2-week extension. The same goes with Dr. Limbin, who's asking for at least a 2-week extension.
I mean, that's also important to stress, di ba? Parang the frontliners. Kanina, kausap ko si Dr. Ronjin Solante, and this is, as you know, San Lazaro Hospital. So, government hospital yan. He also is one of the experts na kinukonsulta. And, I don't wanna put words in his mouth, pero kanina nung tinanong ko, paano nangyari yun? Na in-announce lang the other day. What was the consultation that went on? And among other things, he said, well, mas maganda kung nakukonsulta yung mga frontliners at saka people on the ground. So it wasn't quite a categorical But,
so the question is, were they consulted at all until today?
Nililinaw ko lang po, hindi yun ang sinabi ni Dr. Ronjin Solante. But that's certainly one of the things we'd like to get to when we talk to...
And Bok, if you look at the timetables, at least the time frames, diba? So if things go as planned, we slide down to GCQ by September 15. But that's around more or less the time when we expect the numbers to peak, middle of September going to the end of September. So diyan talaga tataas daw yung ating COVID numbers. So the question would be, would they be able to do that with confidence? Bringing it down at a time when things are really going up.
Tsaka kapit lang po kasi when you talk about the peak, we're talking about what? 40,000 numbers. That's the high number.
To 43,000 for Metro Manila. With emphasis for Metro Manila.
For Metro Manila lang ba yun, yung 40,000 na projection na yun?
For Metro Manila. Specifically for Metro Manila, according to Dr. Aletea de Guzman of the head of the DOH Epidemiology Center. That's the high and low projections for NCR.
Well, among other things, they're hoping that with this reprieve from going back to GCQ, hopefully we'll be at the lower end of the estimates. But let's start, Ed. Let's start not with NCR. We are looking at the national situation, of course, so let's start outside of NCR. We begin tonight with Iloilo City Mayor Jerry Treñas. Good evening, Mayor Treñas.
Good evening.
Magandang gabi, sir.
Hey, sir, of course, over the past days, we've been talking about GCQ, tapos the piloting of the granular system in NCR, and then backdrop all of this with the high numbers. Let's start from where you stand, sir. Your vantage point, kamusta po dyan sa Iloilo?
Well, we have been under MECQ for quite a while. I think since June, we were MECQ, ECQ, MECQ. So people are really hurting, business is hurting. But we follow the quarantine classification that is given by the national government.
But how are you receiving this shift of emphasis to granular lockdowns? I mean, this would put more burden and more emphasis on what can be done at the local levels. Ano pong tingin niyo sa strategy na yan?
Ang problema diyan is really the alert. No? First alert, second alert, third alert, fourth alert. Alam mo kasi sa Panay, ang referral hospitals dito lang sa amin sa Iloilo City. So even if our cases go down, if our hospitals will be full, because at the moment, 70-30 ratio, no? 70% of the patients come from the other provinces and 30% come from the city. So even if we will have a low number of cases every day, as long as our hospitals are full, then we will always be on alert number 4 by the DOH, because the only determination of the alert levels will be based on the hospital utilization rate. So what will happen to us? We will never get out of this fix.
Sir, tama ba to, sir, na yung inyong COVID wards nasa 94% occupancy at yung ICU units nasa 87% occupancy?
Yes, yes.
That's magnificently high kasi ang national average is what, 67%
76,
ata, or 74%. 76% yung ICU.
76%.
If you're hitting 94% for COVID wards, that's unusually high.
But that's the ratio of the patients there is 70-30. Only 30% of the patients there come from the city. We
Okay,
have,
okay.
alam mo kasi, you've been to Iloilo, di ba? Iloilo City is the regional center of
Yes.
Panay. And all the patients come from the whole
Puntahan ng tao.
Panay. So there are 4 provinces: Iloilo, Antique, Capiz, and Aklan. And aside from that, you have Guimaras. All the patients who are moderate or severe are sent here. So our hospitals will always be full. It's the same way with the Taguig. All the patients will go to St. Luke's Global,
St. Luke's.
because that's a very well-known hospital. And what will happen if St. Luke's Global will be full all the time? So Taguig will always be in ECQ or whatever. Diba?
Kayo po ba, nalilito po kayo dyan? I mean, you talked about the levels, and as you pointed out, one of the factors that go into determining levels is not just the number of COVID positive patients there, but also the capacity of the hospital, the occupancy at the hospital. But what else is there that needs to be clarified on granular lockdowns and all these levels and all of these different strategies that they're putting out there?
Medyo magulo. I was looking at the draft, and medyo magulo talaga. If iwan mo lang sa LGU at saka iniwan nga sa LGU, pero ang LGU can only manage it according to the rules that they're going to give the LGU. So, ang isang nakakatawa, ang apor pwede lumabas sa bahay if the bahay is granular lockdown, pero hindi na pwede bumalik. Saan siya matutulog? Ha? Ed, masagot mo ba?
Ed, ikaw ba? Kaya mo raw sagutin yun? Eto pa, let's bring in si Ami Pamintuan. Baka si Ami Pamintuan kayang sagutin yan. Kung hindi man, siya ang may tanong sa inyo.
Good evening, Mayor Treñas.
Hi, good evening.
Magiging pilot po ang NCR, pero kapag natuloy yan, siguro i-spread yan sa mga lugar na matataas ang cases, baka masama Iloilo. At sinabi nyo na nga na the burden will fall heavily on the LGUs. Kaya nyo ba yun? Kasi wala namang pagbabago sa testing, for example, sa contact tracing, saka sa ayuda, of course, kapag naka-lockdown, kailangan nyo. Kaya ba yun ng mga local government?
Well, at the moment, the local government are not in a good position because we have been under lockdown for the past 1 year and 9 months. And the businesses are already hurting, and that translates to lower collections. So insofar as the capacity of the local governments, apektado na talaga. Second, ang rate of vaccination. Kayo dyan sa Metro Manila, 80% na yata.
Hindi.
Kami dito, 27%, 28%. And kami na yata ang highest dito sa Region 6. That's because for a while, for the longest time, the IATF gave all the vaccines to the NCR. And at the expense of the provinces. So we are just 27, 28% fully vaccinated. And if you allow more activities, you will have to contend with more cases. Unfortunately, as I have been explaining, 70% of the patients in all the hospitals in Iloilo come from the provinces. And we will always be in eternal lockdown if they will be using healthcare utilization rate as their only determinant for a lockdown. No? It's no longer called a lockdown, but it's called alert level 4. No? It's like typhoon signal number 4.
Ano pong gusto nyo i-consider sa alert level kung sakasakali? Kasi finish nila ngayon yan eh. They're discussing it until siguro for another week.
I think there are more areas that they will have to consider aside from the usual determinants, which are the hospital care utilization rate. There was a time when I felt bad because our cases were low. And unfortunately, our hospitals were full, 80% coming from the provinces. And we were placed under ECQ while the province was placed under MECQ. So it was so unfair because the hospitals in Iloilo City are the referral hospitals. As I have explained, what will happen to Taguig or to Quezon City is St. Luke's QC, no? So if these hospitals will always be full, or Cardinal Santos for Mandaluyong, if it's going to be full of patients coming from the different cities and provinces, it will be always the host hospital that will be affected. And you close down the host hospital because the hospitals, the host cities, because the hospitals in the cities are full. It will be unfair.
Sir, we do understand your point. Yes, sir. Sir, we do understand your point na disproportionate, I suppose, is the word. Disproportionate yung occupancy ng hospital sa Iloilo vis-a-vis, I suppose, the rest of the province kasi puntahan nga Iloilo. I'm wondering lang po, kamusta po ang infection rate sa Iloilo City mismo compared to, for example, the rest of the province? As well, kamusta po yung trends dun sa infections sa Iloilo City?
Well, mataas pa kami, no? But I hope in the next week or two, pababa na rin because alam mo, Ed, at saka sa lahat, ano sa palagay nyo, how are we going to end this? This is just massive testing, massive vaccination. That's the only way. Otherwise, this will be like a little baby that you tell him to close, open, di ba? So you close, the cases will go down. You open, the cases will go up. You close again. So this will be forever. But if you vaccinate, you test, then you will be able to identify those who are positive and isolate them.
Apa.
But if you do not identify the positive, they will always be going around and infecting other people. Out of the total positive persons, 55% are asymptomatic. So how do you know that they are positive unless you test.
Yung nga po, yung sa testing, kasi we've been talking about vaccination for a long time, and it's more or less people can even monitor it, given that there are external factors as well to bringing in the supply of vaccines. Pero sa testing, because we have been talking about, everybody's been talking about testing from the very start of this pandemic, testing and contact tracing. How come dun po sa aspect lang na testing, never mind vaccination, but sa testing, sa contact tracing, how come pati yun parang hindi nag-level up?
Well, I do not know with the rest, no? But you know, Ray, dito sa amin sa city, we're testing 500 to 600 a day. And unfortunately, our positivity rate is quite high, 27%. But isipin mo, 27% are positive. So you're walking around your city and just think that 27% that the persons you are meeting are positive.
Mayor,
But I test a lot, no, 500 to 600 a day. And ang isa pa, ang close contacts, we really have to test them. Ang iba kasi do not test the close contact so that their cases will go down. So what they do is they just place them on quarantine.
Apa.
So 14 days ka. Pero ang kaso mo will not go up because hindi mo na-test.
Apa. But it's an execution question. It's not a supply question when it comes to testing.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I think we have a lot of laboratories right now that can do the test.
libre po ba testing sa Iloilo?
Ang sa city, ginawa namin 1,008 lang. And ang mga symptomatic at saka close contacts, libre in the sense that we will just charge it from PhilHealth if and when they pay. No? Alam mo naman, I filed a case against PhilHealth for non-payment of the bills of the hospitals here in Iloilo. It's almost 1 billion already.
Kasi yun nga yung
Hindi pa nagbabayad ang PhilHealth.
Yun nga yung tinatanong ko kanina, Mayor, kung mag-granular lockdown, kailangan ng testing nung area na naka-lockdown, ay mga tao ron, to make the granular lockdown work. And then you have to have nga efficient contact tracing. Kaya ba yon ng mga, lalo na yung malalaking cities kapareho ng Iloilo?
For when we started looking at the possibility of the Delta variant coming in, we started increasing our quarantine facilities to 1,008 so that we will be able to prepare a place for them, no? Because even the hospitals are full. And there are about 1,003 in quarantine already, either from our facilities or the hotels or the home quarantine. But you know, once we start testing and you find out more positive persons, you must be prepared with your quarantine facilities. Aside from being prepared with your quarantine facilities, you must be prepared to bring them to the hospital, especially those who are moderate and severe. Do we have the hospitals? Do we have the quarantine facilities? Are we ready to feed several persons for a long time? No? They are saying that the ILG or the SWD will be helping the local government. I still do not see how that is going to happen.
Sir, notwithstanding, ay malinaw naman po yung mensahe nyo, yung mga kailangan nyo at your level, and also clarifications on some confusing or not yet fully thought out strategies. But as far as the strategy is concerned, at the highest level, a lot of people perceive that there's a paradigm shift. By trying to de-emphasize community quarantine, whether it's ECQ, GCQ, or MECQ, and emphasizing granular lockdown, the paradigm shift is it's not going to be national government. We have to shift to what the local governments can do. Give them the mandate, the power, the freedom, the logistics, and so on. Let's assume all of that is there. Is it the better strategy to let the local governments run this?
So, assuming that you went on with a granular lockdown for the NCR tomorrow, all all the LGUs will be on lockdown, di ba? Alert level 4 lahat except Manila. So what change was brought about by the granular lockdown? Di ba? Ano sa palagay mo, Ed?
I think, sir, there's also a bit of confusion dun sa ano.
It's the name that's different, but it's the same dog with a different color.
Yes, sir. Pero, sir, I think there's a bit of confusion even among us kung saan ini-implement yung alert levels, whether did be implemented doon sa granular lockdowns or doon sa GCQ areas. Last we heard, I think this was from last night, ang guest natin si Dr. Vega, our understanding was yung granular lockdowns, doon magkakaroon ng leveling, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So sa granular lockdowns, merong level 1 na merong mga bukas, level 4, sarado lahat. But that we have to wait for details kasi hindi pa ganun kalinaw, hindi magulo eh.
Alam mo, I was listening to Ben-Hur this morning, and maski the MMDA governor, anong tawag niyan? Hindi niya alam kung paano gawin, di ba?
Yes, sir. Pero sir, I think the question for the LGUs is this, especially in your case, for example, kung sakaling ituloy nila yung plano na granularized lockdown at nakashift na yung burden sa LGUs, would the LGUs have the manpower and the resources to implement the lockdowns and support the people in the granular lockdowns? Kasi yung mga tao yan, walang labas-masok yan.
Alam mo, the LGUs have never complained. From the start of this pandemic, it was the LGUs that were in the forefront. And we never complained. We do not have the manpower. We do not have the funds. We just move on because that is what we are trained for. It's always the national government dictating on us. We just listen, just follow, but we never complain.
Yes, sir. Pero sir, Indian kasi it's pesos and cents din eh. It's pesos and cents eh. Would you have the budget? Would you have the people, the staffing to take care of it?
Ano yan? Ang BDO, we find ways.
Kasi kayo mag-desisyon na raw kung halimbawa kailangan i-lockdown yung isang sitio, yung isang kalye, at kapag ni-lockdown nyo yun under this shift in strategy, kayo na lahat ang
sasagutin niyo yun.
yung lahat yun, yung ayuda, dahil hindi sila makakalabas, kayo na yung testing, kayo na yung contact tracing ng mga kasama sa
We've been testing. We've been doing the contact tracers are hired by the DILG all over the Philippines. And andyan na yan, no? So we just manage them, but they are hired by the DILG. The testing, we've been doing it for the longest time since we opened our molecular lab in November. The national government does not do the testing here, and so far as Iloilo is concerned. The ayuda, yan, di namin kaya. But if they tell us that we have to give food assistance, kaya namin yan.
Okay.
Yung cash assistance yung mahirap.
Ang cash assistance, mahirap. The last time Iloilo City was under ECQ, they gave out 620 million. That's almost 25% of my budget already.
Okay. Iloilo City Mayor Jerry Treñas. Sir, maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Thank you.
Salamat, sir. Ingat po.
Ingat po. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back. Welcome back to Chiefs here on One News. This is Robbie Alampay. Kasama po natin si Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star and Ed Lingao of One News. And now joining us, National Task Force on COVID-19 spokesperson, General Restituto Padilla. Good evening, General Padilla.
Good evening, Robbie. Good evening, Ami. Good evening, Ed. And
Good evening, sir.
to all the televiewers, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
Magandang gabi po, General. And then in the past 2.5 hours, paulit-ulit po tayo sa balita. We've been clarifying this news about inaasahan ng mga tao return to GCQ in 2 days. Now we're announcing over the past 2 hours lang na mukhang hindi. Hold muna tayo until September 15. But pati yung September 15, may qualification din po yun, di ba? Na parang, or at least until ma-implement na yung pilot ng granular sa NCR. Tama po ba? Maybe I will let you make the clear announcement, sir.
So what is clear about everything is that we're not switching to GCQ tomorrow.
Mhm.
So that's very clear, no? Number one. And then what's clear is that wala pa pong implementing guidelines para ho sa pagpapatupad ng isang pilot granular lockdown na pinag-uusapan po natin ng ilang araw na. So klaro po yan at hindi pa rin po alam ng karamihan po ng ibang lugar pati ng ibang ahensya ang anumang implementing guidelines na ito dahil at the moment patuloy pa rin pong ginagawa ito at ang arang technical team na nagbibigay po ng abiso at saka nag-formulate ng mga guidelines ay hindi pa po tapos. So kanina po natapos yung usapan po ng mga mayor at ang IATF at yan po yung mga issue na lumabas at nakita po maliwanag yung hindi pa po handang environment natin para sa isang pagpapatupad ng GCQ with a pilot granular lockdown concept. Pati na po yung alert level na hindi pa rin naintindihan ng karamihan. So let's wait po. Let's wait for this to be formulated.
General, I have to say, malinaw na malinaw yung lahat ng sinabi nyo, including yung merong mga hindi pa malinaw at merong pang kailangan linawin. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's precisely what has a lot of people asking, ano yung proseso nung nag-announce kahapon? Di ba? Parang, and then why announce these things when meron pa palang hindi malinaw? And over the course of these few hours, we've been talking to people, frontliners, hospital officials, including government frontline workers. And among other things, we are getting the impression that not everybody was consulted.
Well, I cannot speak on behalf of the issuing authority for the announcement that was earlier made. What is clear to us is that we sought for guidance and we did not get it because it was not ready. So yun po yung sa panig naman namin kasi ang National Task Force ang siyang nagpapatupad kung ano po yung bumababa galing po sa IATF. At ang kasalukuyang concern po ng ating NTF ngayon ay nakafocus pa rin sa vaccination rollout at sa pagtulong sa pagpigil ng pagtaas ng bilang ng mga nagkakasakit. Kaya yung katanungan po at yung hiling ng ating mga health workers na naglabas ng kanilang hinanaing na ngayon na tumataas ang kaso, bakit ngayon pa po tayo gagawa ng ganito, maaring nakarating na rin sa mga kinaukulang dapat makarinig, kaya nag-adjust po tayo. At ito po naman ay most welcome kasi tama naman po, hindi pa rin po talaga handa at wala pa rin po yung mga guidelines.
Pero sir, ano sir yung instrumental? Ano yung number one critical push that made the government decide to defer it for one more week? Ano yung variable na biglang pumasok na nakapag-desisyon ng gobyerno na, tigil muna tayo?
Well, number one, hindi ready yung implementing guidelines. Wala tayong pagbabasihan kung paano natin i-implement yung pilot test na ito. Pangalawa, maaaring yung panawagan ng ating mga health workers at yung kalituhan na naging dulot ng announcement na yon ay naging konsiderasyon para i-extend muna yung kasalukuyang quarantine status natin para nang sa ganon maliwanag pa rin yung dapat i-implement.
General, kaninang hapon, ang sabi ng government baka daw ma-defer only for 1 day because of the implementing guidelines nga na hinahanda pa raw. So ano yung mas malaki sigurong weight ang naibigay ng mga health workers? Would you say na that is the case? Kasi sabi nyo, yung environment hindi pa ready. And ngayon, 18,000 na naman yung mga kaso natin, mataas. Yan yung pinupoint out ng mga health workers. Was that considered yung number of cases?
Well, perhaps, Ami, no, I cannot speak on behalf of those who made the decision. But one thing is sure, hindi po ma-implement yan ng after 1 day lang. Nagsabi na rin po ng anunsyo na hanggang 15 ng Setyembre ang extension ng MECQ. So mananatili po ang ating lugar, lalo na yung mga ibang lugar na naanunsyo na sa ganong klaseng quarantine condition. Pero hindi po nagbabago yung ibang quarantine condition sa ibang lugar na naanunsyo na at nailabas na sa resolusyon na inailabas nung huli. So hanggang katapusan po yon. Pero dito po sa magkakaroon ng pilot test, maaring ang lumalabas nga po na datos at ang patuloy na pakiusap ng ating health workers dahil sa napupunong mga ospital, ang isa sa naging dahilan at basihan noong pag-suspend muna nito.
Pero sir, looking forward po, well, not really looking forward, moving forward, with the new timetable in mind, September 15, yung posibleng imposition ng downgrade, that's also more or less the same time frame kung saan inaasahan ng DOH na magpipeak yung numbers natin ng COVID-19. Di ba, sabi nila, baka mid-September until end September magpipeak eh. So, baka lalong mas mahihirapan na mag-downgrade at that particular time. Hindi kaya?
So, Ed, hindi ko muna sasagutin yung katanungan na yan. I would rather cross the bridge when we get there, so to speak. So, hintayin natin. Kasi if the guidelines are out and there are specific parameters on how to control or better control the rise of cases, then I would defer to that. Because I believe yung gumagawa naman ng mga patakaran na to ay mga eksperto at alam nila yung ginagawa nila. So, hindi ko muna, I won't venture an answer to that and would rather cross the bridge when we are there already.
But sir, just to emphasize one important point, yung direction ng discussions and consultations over the next 2 weeks is still papuntang granular lockdown. When you say na yung guidelines kailangan maayos, there's no question na granular lockdown pa rin ang direksyon ng strategy ngayon.
Well, yun ang lumalabas, kasi the common denominator sa approach po ng karamihan ng mga bansa sa mundo ngayon is learning to live with the virus. So, paano ba ang pinakamainam na paraan para tayo ay makapagluwag ng kaunti at makapagkaroon ng ibang klaseng normalisasyon na pinapayagang gumalaw ang ekonomiya at the same time na ma-manage natin itong virus na to. So, ganun po yung direksyon ng karamihan ng mga bansa ngayon. So, dun sa nakikitang datos po, marahil ng mga eksperto, I don't claim to be a public health expert, Unang-una, I'd like to make that as a disclaimer. We rely on the advice of our experts. So, apparently, na may nakikitang mga datos ang ating mga ibang eksperto na hindi na nagiging mainam yung malawakang kwarantina na ginagawa natin dahil hindi rin naman napipigilan yung galaw ng karamihan. At maaring nagdudulot ito ng rason kaya kumakalat at tumadami pa rin yung kaso. So, mas maari siguro na mas mag-focus tayo at mas maging surgical ang approach, kaya nga granular yung ginagawa, para mas makontrol yung spread. Pero marami pa ring parameters yan na sinasabi yung karamihan. So, dapat paigtingin yung contact tracing, dapat maagap tayo, proactive, things like that. So, those are considerations that I guess are very much into the discussions, but I'm not privy to them.
Apo, but among the other factors that you didn't mention, but I'm sure it is there, is when you talk about other societies moving on to thinking maybe it's time to start, being realistic. We're going to have to live with this for a very long time, if not forever. But without even having to be specific, those societies presumably have
Are
gotten to a
vaccinated.
certain have gotten to a
Yes,
certain
that's
level
right.
of vaccination. We're at 13%. Parang isn't it too early to be discussing it in those terms?
Well, I'm specifically talking about the case of Metro Manila, no? Kaya nga kanina binanggit ko na nakatutok pa rin ang ating vaccine SAR sa pag-roll out ng pagbabakuna. Kasi yung pilot ay hindi naman gagawin sa ibang lugar. Gagawin ito sa Metro Manila o sa NCR, kung saan ang ating inoculation rate ay medyo mataas na. So, given that, maaring ito yung nagiging direksyon para magbigay daan para dun sa panibagong approach para sa pagkontrol ng pagkalat ng COVID cases. At isa pa, siguro nakikita na ang karamihan ng datos ngayon na lumalabas, although punuan nga ang ospital, nasa critical pa rin, is karamihan sa nagkakasakit ay unvaccinated at nagiging malubha, wala silang bakuna. At mayroong kailan lang na breakthrough cases. So, ito siguro marahil ang nagiging direksyon na kailangan paspasan natin yung pagbabakuna para magbigay daan tayo sa patuloy na pagluluwag.
General, medyo mababa pa rin tayo sa Metro Manila. And in fact, ang sabi ng Department of Health, because of Delta, kailangan taasan natin yung ating target population for herd immunity to 90%. Medyo mataas yun, medyo marami-rami, milyon-milyon yung madadagdag nun sa vaccine requirement ng NCR. Ano po yung projection nyo? Kailan natin kayang... are you aiming for 90 now? Saka mga gano'ng katagal kaya ang madadagdag na time sa na kailangan natin to inoculate based on what we are seeing now?
Well, unang-una yung target population natin sa adult population, nananatiling ang target natin ay 70% pa rin. So yun muna po lata ang tutok natin. Pero pagka nagdagdag na po tayo ng karamihan ng kabataan, pagka sila ay napayagan na o meron na tayong stock para mabakunahan ng 12 years old above, maaaring madagdagan po yung bilang ng mga mapoprotektahan natin beyond the target adult population. It might increase considerably to a certain number, the number of which I am not sure of, and I'd rather go to the correct demographics for that. No? So that's the possibility of increasing po yung number ng mga mapoprotektahan natin. At saka dito sa Metro Manila, ang atin po namang tinatarget ay 14 million na target population na dapat mabakunahan. And I think we're on our way to doing that if we keep our rates at a high of about 700,000 per day or more.
Yung objective na October for the start of minors, yung mas mababa, hindi naman lahat ng kaya ba natin? Is it attainable?
Under the current circumstances that we're doing at vaccination centers, basta hindi lang maging spreader event at maging maayos lang po ang registration, kaya naman natin ito. Nakita naman po natin ang kakayahan ng ating mga vaccinators sa mga ibang vaccination center na pwede sila mag-step up kung may ample supply. Kaya nga po yung supply issue ay in-address ni Secretary Galvez. Sabi niya ngayong buwan na to, we will be gunning up for about 25 million vaccines so we can help the other LGUs and provincial areas. And then for October, we're I think aiming for about 29 million or more. So dun sa mga bilang ng bakunang darating na yan, masusustain po natin yung effort na yon.
Sir, sige po, go ahead.
Ikaw na, sige.
Well, sir, kagaya ng napag-usapan namin kanina with Mayor Peñas, there was a bit of confusion dun sa alert levels doon sa new system that should have been imposed tomorrow.
Yes.
Could you give us some clarity there? Yung alert levels ba, are they going to be effective for the entire area, the general population, for example, of a certain quarantine area, or are they limited only to those who are under a granular lockdown?
Well, I think it's part of the pilot that will be rolled out for Manila. Initially, bago siya i-apply on a wider basis sa ibang lugar. So ito ay specific sa kondisyon ng hospital or health system capacity sa
Yes,
isang
sir.
lugar. So yan yung beds na nagagamit for COVID cases and the like. So doon sa pilot, nakaugnay yata yung pagdetermina ng granular lockdown doon sa level na yon. So hintayin po natin yung guideline. Maaring nakalink doon yung magiging kondisyon ng pagpili ng mga lugar kung saan magfo-focus ang isang effort for granular lockdown or hindi. Or mag-aaring magbigay daan para sa pagluluwag.
So maging yun, hindi pa rin ganun kaklaro.
Hindi pa po. At kaya nga po hinihintay po natin kung ano yung magiging guidance tungkol dito dahil importante po na maintindihan talaga ito.
Opo, kasi among other things, yun yung isang pinoint out ni Mayor Treñas ng Iloilo. Iloilo nga naman yung center, yung hub ng
apat na
buong
probinsya yun,
region.
ano?
Di ba? And everybody sends their cases there. So,
Correct.
para bang naipapatong yung bilang sa kanila lahat. Eh, sabi niya, kahit kaunti, even if the LGU does a good job of keeping the numbers among their residents low, by virtue of the hospital being the major factor dito sa alert level, hindi na magbubukas ang Iloilo.
Correct po. At saka may iba hong mga LGUs that have so much capacity like Quezon City because there is an aggregation of hospitals in that area. So Manila, likewise, madami rin pong hospital. Pero may mga LGU na iisa lang, dadalawa lang at hindi ganun kalakihan ng kanilang bed capacities. Kaya nagmamigrate yung mga may sakit at nagpupunta sa mga ibang ospital na may available na higaan. At yun naman din ang ginagawa ng One Hospital Command. Tinitimpla niya at dinadala niya sa mga lugar kung saan pwedeng ma-accommodate ang may sakit.
General,
Yes,
may
sir.
ilang healthcare workers na sinabi sa amin, kaya daw hindi nag-work yung ECQ at tumaas pa rin yung mga kaso natin hanggang ngayon. Kasi kulang, hindi daw sinabayan ng testing, saka contact tracing, ramping up of capabilities. Ano bang ginagawa ng gobyerno ngayon to increase capacity?
Well, admittedly, yung test contact tracing, isa yan sa mga weaknesses natin. Nabanggit na rin yan ni Mayor Magalong at na extensively na ipaliwanag niya na yan dati pa. No? Pero totoo yun, ang kakulangan lang natin ng resources kasi para masustentuhan or maayos o masuportahan yung kakaroon ng mass testing ay hindi natin magawa dahil nga ang resources na natin ay nakalaan na sa mas importanteng mga bagay. So, inilagay natin ito sa mga isolation facilities, ilagay natin ito sa mga kagamitan para sa mga ospital, at iba pa pong mga kinakailangan gawin tulad ng ayuda para sa mga naiipit sa mga ECQ at saka mga iba pang kwarantina. So, we really have to balance out the available resources of government for the priority areas that we need to put into. That's why, although we have enough testing centers, napakarami na rin po nating testing centers, karamihan po rito ay private at kakaunti lang yung public. Kaya yung nakaka-afford lang, nakakapagpa-test kadalasan.
Kaya nga, wala ba kayong balak na dagdagan ng capacity ng government to provide kahit subsidized testing, lalo na sa mga mahihirap?
Meron na pong ginawang unang hakbang. Binaba po yung presyo ng testing. No? I think ang antigen testing nasa less than 1,000 na lang. Ang PCR test nasa less than 3,000 na lang. So, yung standardization ng presyo ng mga test na ito ay isa sa mga unang hakbang. Tapos susunod na ho siguro marahil dyan, kapag napaglaanan ng resources na magbibigay po ng mga testing kits na hindi naman kinakailangang RT-PCR, pwede po itong surveillance testing kits, no? Na para makapagkaroon ng scanning sa lahat ng mga lugar na nagpapakita ng pagtaas ng kaso. At ang kagandahan naman po ngayon sa nangyayari sa nakikita natin na mga na-ospital, ang talaga nagiging seryoso yung mga hindi nabakunahan. So yung mga nabakunahan, nakakaiwas sila to becoming critical or severe, and most of them are mild or asymptomatic. That's why we need to work these things together side by side. Vaccination, testing, and the treatment.
Yung digital contact tracing, ang sabi, within the month maglo-launch ang DICT, Department of Information and Communications Technology, ng central database o kaya interconnected database para mag-work na daw yung ating digital contact tracing. On track ba yan o can we expect something this month actually?
Well, honestly, I have not been able to follow how well the DICT has progressed on the contact tracing side. But from the last time na nag-check po ako niyan, may challenges pa pong hinaharap ang DICT, no? Kung paano nila magiging interoperable lahat ng mga platforms na ginagamit ng iba't ibang LGU. And meron na po yata silang proposed solution. So this might be the direction in the near term. If they are able to get those things to work together, then mas magiging malawakan po yung contact tracing natin. And hopefully, mas maging mainam.
Kausap po natin si General Restituto Padilla. He's the spokesperson for the National Task Force on COVID-19. And General, I hope you don't mind, I'll ask you as a spokesperson. Because with all the confusion and itong papalit-palit na mga announcement, I'm sure nakita nyo naman yung biro ng mga tao na yung iba hindi pa biro, yung iba pagalit talaga. I'm sure you've seen the posts of people saying, ano ba yan? And then some people saying, ano ba yan? Parang walang Viber group. As a spokesperson, yun lang, I want to ask you, how can government improve its communications so that as you yourself said, as you yourself have acknowledged, kaka-announce lang natin ng policy kahapon and then apparently hindi pa pala malinaw. And ngayon, ang mas malinaw pa nga po yung sinabi nyo na hold muna tayo hanggang malinawan natin lahat. Diba? But as spokesperson, what do you think can be done so that we don't get these mixed signals?
Well, this is recommendatory on my part, and I made some of these recommendations previously, that before an announcement for a change of quarantine, and if the announcement for the change of quarantine entails a big adjustment on the part of the public, dapat po yung lahat ng mga kinakailangang ilatag muna at maintindihan down to the level of the LGUs, down to the level of the agencies na magpapatupad nito, dapat nandyan muna. Sila muna dapat ang makaintindi bago isa publiko ito. So maaring ang mga announcement po ay nauuna kasi wala pa po yun dahil may gusto ho siguro silang i-pilot test kaagad at nagkasundo na nalimutan naman po yung i-cascade sa pagbaba. So yun lang naman po. So para maging mas malinaw, ang rekomendasyon naman po dati pa siguraduhin lang po na nandyan po yung mga kinakailangang nakalatag ng mga guidelines at pagkaintindi ng mga mag-i-implementang mga ahensya para maliwanag po ang rollout.
General, meron ding suggestion na kasi napakalaki daw ng Metro Manila, baka daw mas pwedeng gawing mas surgical pa yung approach kung itutuloy yung granular lockdown at mamili na lang ng ilang siguro cities na mataas pa rin ang COVID cases. Is that feasible?
Yun naman po siguro ang focus, no? To focus or target at hanapin kung saan yung pinagmumula ng sakit. At kung matukoy kung saan nagmumula ito, dun po mag-focus ng attention at mag-create ng tinatawag na granular lockdown para siguraduhin na hindi na ito kalat. At yung paghahanap ng lugar na yan po, tama yung sabi nyo kanina, kailangan ng testing dyan, kinakailangan ng contact tracing para mas maging mainam. Pero I think the common denominator, the most important consideration there is how to act proactively. Paano po umaksyon ng mas mabilis para lagi tayong nauuna doon sa paggalaw ng virus.
So posible ba yun na hindi entire Metro Manila, kundi certain cities lang?
Pwede po. Yun naman yung sinasabi natin tinutukoy ng granular lockdown. Kung saan nagmumula ang kaso, doon po magtututok ng pansin at saka ng ating mga resources.
Okay. General Restituto Padilla, spokesperson for the National Task Force on COVID-19. General, maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat din sa pagkakataon.
Thank you, sir.
And stay safe, everyone.
Kayo rin po. That's all for this special edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to everyone, mask on, wash hands, stay safe, and get vaccinated, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Edwin Gao, and we are One News.
Sa ating 3D Lotto, the numbers are 6, 2, and 4 in exact order. And for our 6D Lotto, the winning combination is